Good morning, everyone. I'm Pete Wolfe, the moderator for this particular panel on the pilot shortage, and we're very pleased to have an incredibly well-qualified panel. Our presenters this morning will include Kit Darby, who will lead us off, Ron Levy, who is representing the University Aviation Association, who will follow next, followed by Captain Paul Rice from ALPA, the Airline Pilots Association, and then John Dixon from American Eagle. The topic is one that I think everyone is obviously interested enough to be here this morning, and we're certainly pleased. We think that there's enough debate going on that this particular discussion will help all of us get a sense of some of the elements that are working to create a legitimate, very real, and very long-term pilot shortage. Kit Darby.
Good morning. Kit Darby, president of Air Inc. We're an airline pilot career information service based in Atlanta, Georgia. We track the hiring and have been doing that consistently since the late 70s, early 80s. We had an incredible hiring boom right before 9/11. We thought it was a generational boom, that it would not be seen again. I've got to sort of take that back. I think we are going to see that again, and it's not too far away right now. That was 19,000 jobs in a single year, and about 5,000 of those jobs at the majors. But if you'll look back in 1993, we had about 500 jobs at the majors. And then in 2000, about 5,000 jobs at the majors. And back to 2003 and 4, about 500 jobs at the majors. This is a factor of 10. So when I say our business has shark's teeth up and down, there's no doubt about it that this is an up and down business. From a pilot's point of view, it introduces some career instability, to say the least. And it causes difficult for folks to plan, individuals to bet on a long-term opportunity, and for parents to fund training initially for a long-term opportunity. The coverage we get in the media from bankruptcies and so forth continues to flavor the opinions of those that are seeking training and funding training, and we've had a lot of that. And it hasn't been too long ago that we had Northwest and Delta still in bankruptcy. And we still hear that today from pilots that are seeking and from parents that are funding initial training. So it causes a lot of problems.
Aero-TV is brought to you by...
Today, there is an affordable, high-performance, easy-to-own and easy-to-operate very light jet designed with you in mind. Far less expensive than any other twin-engine jet to buy, it is also the least expensive to own and operate. It is the Eclipse 500. The jet that's easy to buy, easy to fly, and fun to own. The jet for you.
Our February hiring summary, we've been running now about 1,000, 1,200 jobs a month on a pretty regular basis. Of course, our national category, which is a confusing category based on revenue, has mostly regional airlines flying regional planes to regional places, and that segment has had more jobs every month for 7 years. And it's been an incredible, last year, 6,800 jobs in a single segment. And as you'll see later, their growth and so forth has slowed a little bit, and you'd wonder why they need so many pilots, but the number above it is the reason. Those 3,000 pilots, for the most part, came out of our regional carriers. The days when we had 75, 80% military pilots are gone, long gone. Today, it's 30% military, 70% civilian. And I might add that the military is a fixed supply. There's only so many of them. And when you've used them up, then you must make up your additional pilots from the civilian supply. So that's why the civilian hiring swings even wider. Military, not all of them have found the airline choice to be so clear these days. Been a lot of instability among their friends that were airline pilots. There were large furloughs. Their pay has continued to increase, where airline pilot pay for about half the companies went down. I remind you that the other half did not. Our freight carriers getting pay raises, hiring and profitable after 9/11. Our low-cost carriers, Southwest, JetBlue, AirTran, Frontier, growing and profitable after 9/11. So of the 15 major airlines, only about half of them went through the problems that are associated with wage and benefit reductions at the legacy carriers. A lot of pilots involved, but as far as number of companies, there was still a lot of success in the major airline business after 9/11. Factors that drive hiring, we've got fleet growth. the old adage that there's 10 pilots per plane, 5 crews, 2 pilots per plane, not too accurate now as we're getting into larger and larger portions. Our large legacy carriers running 30–40% international travel. When you go over 8 hours, you get an extra co-pilot. You go over 12 hours, you get a whole extra crew. So we're now running about 12.2 pilots per plane and growing. And of course, companies that have more wide-body, long-range international travel, your dynamics change. And one of the reasons Delta is hiring so many pilots today is their large international growth. They take 767s and take them out of domestic service and put them in international. They need 50% more pilots, at least in that fleet, the moment they make that change, because they have augmented crews on the majority of the flights, meaning the rest of the world has an even greater demand than we do. And the rest of the world is coming here in pretty large numbers. We have crew leasing companies and foreign airlines telling us, not just one, but multiples telling us they need 1,000 qualified captains in the next 12 months. And those qualified captains would produce 5, 7, 8 training events at every major airline that they left.
Aero-TV is brought to you by Cirrus aircraft have always been easy to fly. Now they're easier than ever to buy. A complete line of ownership programs gives you everything you need to purchase, trade, finance, lease, insure, and warranty your Cirrus. There's even an ownership program for non-pilots. The Cirrus Access Pilot can teach you how to fly, or fly the plane for you. Find out more at www.cirrusdesign.com. Cirrus, for the love of flying.
We're getting now more large jet aircraft than was previously forecast. Of course, we got fewer after 9/11. What happened to our business? I mean, pilots always ask me this question. I mean, what the hell happened? Well, everybody knows it's because pilots make too much money. I mean, it's simple as that. We know that's a fact. It's been said over and over. But in this case, what happened was our income went down. The yield on the ticket went down, and the costs have to be examined, because if your costs are greater than your income, you're losing money, and when your bank account runs out, you go bankrupt, and if you still don't figure it out, you fail or merge. So labor, used to be the highest part of the cost formula, no longer overtaken by fuel, but not by much. And pilots, 10% of the workforce, 30% of that number, and pilots gave up huge amounts at the legacy carriers to adjust for this, to allow their carriers to survive. Our RJ forecast, obviously we're getting fewer RJs now than we previously thought, and of course they're larger. 50 seats no longer the optimum. There is a fact out there that seems to escape most people, and that is that my 767 has a dramatically lower seat mile cost than an RJ. But if you want to really lose money, put 50 people on a 767 and try to go somewhere at a profit. It's not possible. So we've now matched the tool to the market. World freighter forecast, and pilots are wild about freight right now. Freight doesn't get sick. Freight doesn't experience terrorism. Somehow when the cost of fuel goes up, we manage to reach over and tweak the scale and charge more for the package. Haven't figured out how to do that in the passenger business yet, but at least in the freight business, we charge based on our cost, and it works wonderfully. So growth, it's been growing 3, 4, 5%, a little less in hard times, a little more in good times for about 20 years. I'm pretty optimistic it's going to keep doing that based on 20-year history. When we get done, when it's all said and done, at 9/11, we will have lost 1 year's incremental growth. 20 years from now, we look back, we'll have lost 1 year's incremental growth. Utilization is a real hidden factor. We forget the fact that, of course, utilization is not tracked that by most folks. And when we put a whole bunch of airplanes in the desert and pull down utilization, it's not that apparent. When we forecast the hiring boom that occurred back in the early 2000s there, we said, hey, and everybody said, you're crazy. You can't hire pilots. There's no airplanes on order. And then all of a sudden we went from 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day. When you go from 8 to 10 hours a day, how many pilots do you need? 25% more pilots, okay? No more airplanes. Our low-cost carriers today demonstrate that you can have 11, 12, 13-hour utilization. If we achieve that at these large carriers, there's going to be tremendous demand for pilots based on utilization.